So for my final question, I just wanted to ask, is there a main message that readers should take from the journey of the Set family?
So the message that I hope is taken from there, and there's probably a lot of messages, but I think the message that I hope is taken from there is that no matter how bad a situation seems like it's going to be, that it's okay to trust in God.
Yeah.
To see you through that. And the character that really has to endure that, I think, is the father, Jonathan. He's gone through this horrific event in book one, and he's an FBI agent, and he doesn't turn into a vigilante.
No.
He doesn't go out on his own and just start trying to kill everybody in the world. He doesn't enforce his law with a gun. There's a scene in book one where he interrupts a robbery. Him and his partner interrupt a robbery, and it's kind of funny as well. But the thing that happens is the scene's really kind of cool how they get the robbers or get the people safe and get to the robbers. And he gets to drop on the robber with his gun, and he looks at him and he says, and this won't be an exact quote, but he says, are you saved? And the guy kind of looks at him and he says, I need to know whether you're saved or not before I have to kill you. So he's more concerned about, I don't want to kill this guy before he, unless he gets saved first, and, which is kind of a joke, and it's kind of a play on Clint Eastwood and one of those types of movies or something like that. But that's how his character is. He's first and foremost concerned about someone's soul, even if they've done something bad. So, after he arrests this guy, he comes back to him a little bit later and he goes into the police car. And in Jacksonville, one of the cool, and this event takes place in Jacksonville. And one of the things that the Jacksonville Police Department does, and it could be everybody, I don't really know. And maybe it's only some officers in the Jacksonville Police Office. I just know that they do this. They'll play, like CDs of pastors who are local pastors and things like that in their car if they have like a person locked up in the back of their car or something like that. And so the guy's locked up in the back of the car. He comes over, he talks to the police officer for a little bit and he says, okay, go. And he opens the door to the thing and he says, hey, what's your name? And the guy tells him his name and everything. He said, what do they call you? He says, and he explains to him, he introduces him to Christ, because the guy's not saved. He's not been saved. So he introduces him to Christ. This guy's about to face and go into jail. I mean, he's on his way to jail, no doubt, and he's introducing him to Christ. And he says, I'm going to come down and visit you tomorrow. And I'm going to introduce you to someone at the jailhouse or whatever, the lockup, the clink, I'm going to introduce you to someone there who's going to help you.
Yeah. And
that character's name is Robert. Or the person who's going to jail, his name is Robert. And then, you'll see him return and later in like an Acts of the Dragon series. And you can see how he'll talk about how that moment, that one interaction helped him and redirected his life. And I think if there's another message that I need to convey to everybody, it's that your interaction with one person, you don't know what effect that has on someone, and so there's a book that will come out, which will be Elizabeth taking a bus ride, a city bus ride. And I won't tell you how she gets to that. I don't know why she takes the bus ride or those types, but she interacts with the people there. And so if there's someone who you don't know what people have gone through, you don't know what they're doing or what they're about to do, or what happened to them or what their past was or what their present is, you just don't know. And so how you interact with them should be the best possible interaction that you can do with them. And so she introduces herself to, say, a person who recently has had a death. Her husband passed away, and in that she changes that person in that moment so that they're on a different direction now when they leave. And she she talks to, you know, other people on that bus. But I mean, just imagine, you know, and I've done everyone has done stupid things in their life. I've done some stupid things in my life, you know, and imagine, you know, when I was a kid, we tried to be funny about everything. So we'd be in a McDonald's, you know what I mean? And we try to be funny about it, and funny to us, maybe not funny to everyone else. You know what I mean? And if you say something insulting to someone, you don't know what effect it has on that person from that moment on, because you don't see them after that. You say something rude, you turn around, you walk out the store, you know? And if you stop and think about that a minute, if I'm going to leave someone with an impression, if I'm going to interact with someone, shouldn't I just make it the best interaction possible? Should I not try to improve someone's day versus unimprove someone's day? You know, so I mean, imagine saying, hey, you know, something rude to a cashier or something like that, just because, you know, you don't know whether they were having a bad day. You don't know what their tomorrow is going to be like. I mean, think about all the avenues that could happen there. You know, this person goes in because that's the one last thing that they needed to hear, and now they're gonna commit suicide. Or that's the one last thing that they needed to hear, and now they're distracted for the rest of the day, and then other bad things happen because of that, or bad decisions. You know, versus something you could have said that's good. Now, I know there's no guarantee that someone, just because you said something good to someone, it's going to change it for a positive direction or save their life or do anything like that. But it's more possible than if you say something negative to them. You know what I mean? So why not go down that path instead? And if there's one thing another thing that's, like I said, that people could take away from this book, it's to see how Elizabeth interacts with people and how she talks to them. And a lot of times when something prophetic is about to happen, she starts off with, God has a message for you, you know, and she captures your attention, you know. And so in the Robbie Peterson exchange, one of the Acts of the Dragons books, one that Isabella helped with, you know, there's this boy, Robbie Peterson, and throughout the entire book, he talks to his stepfather and he calls him by his name, Greg. And that could be normal for families across the world, you know. And Elizabeth, and he doesn't really appreciate him because he's still attached to his father who has passed away, you know. And so he's got this hurdle he needs to get over. And these are not spoilers because this has nothing to do with the book. This is just an event that's in there. It's an interaction, and it could go actually unnoticed if you're just reading through the book, you know. And she says to him at one point, she says, "I noticed that you call your father, your stepfather by his name, but your stepsister calls your mother mom," you know. And she says, God has a message for you. And she tells him, you know, God is not trying to replace your father with another person. He's giving you another good man who's very kind to your mother, and and so on and so forth. And she's trying to let him know this is not a bad thing that there's this man here. It is a great thing that this man is here to help you, you know. And it that one interaction changes his life, you know. And I think those things are really, really kind of cool, you know. And you know, you'll see in later books down the road where Robbie is older, how that interaction really did change something in his life and put him on a different path, you know. So I think those are things that I'd like people to take away from them.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of great messages to take away from all of the series.
It's complex. There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot.